Hello, and welcome to another edition of Emotions Expert. I'm John Rushton. Many people have actually corresponded with me talking about worrying. It's something we all do, no matter who we are. We tend to worry about various aspects of life, various things which happen, our personal life, our business life, our health, our wealth, what we're doing, where we're going. There's a myriad of things why we tend to worry. Sometimes worrying actually creeps up on us before we even realise we are worrying. It just sort of happens. Sometimes it's for little things. We worry needlessly over stuff which we can't control, and if it does happen it doesn't really matter anyway, but we still worry about it. And sometimes we worry about some of the major things in our lives as well, which actually causes us great consternation. In fact, the worrying aspect of it is worse than the actual product of what we're worrying about. It's us actually falling apart mentally because we can't control what is happening. So why do we worry? Well, a lot of it is down to the fact that there's something happening which we have little or no control about, and so we actually start to chew these things over in our mind quite a lot as to what's going to happen, what am I going to do, where am I going to go if this happens and that happens and something else happens, what is the default plan, what is plan B, plan C, plan D. If this happens, if that happens, and then we get carried away with ourselves and the brain goes in overload and so on and so forth. There's also that aspect of allowing our brain to take over. We don't control it. We don't actually say to ourselves, okay, look, this is it. I've done my best, or I've done what I can do, or what I have done, I've done, and that's it. I cannot change that. And so what is going to happen will happen, and I'll have to deal with the consequences as and when. And sometimes it can be things like, well, I'm having a barbecue on Saturday and the weather forecast isn't very good. If it rains, what am I going to do? I haven't got enough space in the house for all the people I've invited, but the garden is big enough, and all of these kind of things. So we get into a downward spiral. There are things about your health. You're waiting for some blood results or some tests on your health, and it's causing you great consternation. And quite rightly too, it is a very important aspect of your life. It's a very important thing, and you need to know and understand what the consequences are. Obviously your brain goes between the results are negative and you're absolutely fine and it's wonderful and marvellous and you can carry on your life, and the results are not so good, and so therefore you've got to deal with the consequences. And there will be consequences, but nevertheless they will be in place as well, or they will be put in place, and you've just got to go ahead accordingly. It's difficult in these situations not to worry. However, it is important that you do keep a clear mind, however you have to do it, whether you have to discuss it with a loved one or a friend or something of that nature, or go and do something, go to the gym, go for a walk, go for a swim, do some cooking, do some gardening, do whatever you need to do to keep your mind off it. Keep your mind occupied, because having an occupied mind is far, far better than having an empty mind, regurgitating everything and actually formulating dozens and dozens of possibilities. None of them have any probably volition anyway. It's just something which you've created at the same time. There's also that aspect where in society there are a certain group of people who think worrying is something of a great respectability, that if you don't worry you're not a good person, you're cold and callous and thoughtless and insincere. And there are also those people who talk of great atrocities in life. You know, a tsunami happened in this country and 22,000 people were killed and 19,000 people were homeless, and it just goes on. And you look at it and sometimes these numbers are beyond your comprehension. We can't understand this kind of suffering. We know it's not very good, obviously, but at the same time we cannot latch onto it. You know, if somebody next door, your next door neighbour who you like very much indeed, is incredibly ill, you can feel sorrow and compassion and all of these things, sadness, all of these things towards them, because there's a personal link. You can actually put yourself in their place and go, how awful, and whatever it may be. But when it comes to large numbers, we can't always do that. It's just like a lot of these advertising on television for charities and things, and they make it look actually sort of out of proportion to what it is. And I'm not saying that they aren't any good at all or they're not worthwhile. They are. Most of them are very worthwhile. But it's the way we look at things, the way we relate to things. And a lot of it is done to manipulate our minds, to make us feel guilty, so we'll give them money. Worrying is something which we've got to look at ourselves. It's something which we can carry around daily in our lives. Worrying for those people who say, oh, look at climate change, the world's going to go up 2 degrees, the water's going to rise 4 meters, we're going to be out of food, we're going to be this and this and this, and say, what do you think of it? And you say, yeah, okay. What do you mean, okay? I would just told you what it's all about, and all you can say is okay. But the way you process it is that you understand all this, and you've just said, okay, yes, I know what you're saying, but getting hysterical about it and feigning some kind of drama, if I'm going for a Hollywood award or whatever, isn't going to change anything at all. It's going to make life worse for me. And if life is worse for me, I'm going to make life worse for other people, because it rubs off. Other people actually pick up on what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And some people process things in a slightly different way. And if you part of these people who look at you and they say, well, what are you doing about this? And say, well, absolutely nothing really. I do enough as it is. I can't do everything for everybody, and I can't certainly just do this just to please you and shut you up. Well, I think it's well, in fact, if you do it yourself. Do what you need to do, because if everybody did everything, nothing would ever happen. It would be diluted. It wouldn't get there. There'd be no strength at all. You've got to follow your passion and your understanding. And when you do that, you reduce the worry situation. You reduce the stress and anxiety and tension and all of these things which come with it. You've got to respect people, how they process information. And some people are always cool, calm and collect, and they'll give you a valued opinion, and it's a good opinion. And some people are perpetually hysterical. They feel they've got to have a dramatic act to everything they do, everything they say, everything they see, everything they touch. There's some kind of kudos to it for them. They've got to actually start shouting and screaming and waving their arms around and look at this and look what I've done and look at all that and look what's going to happen, and you're sat there doing nothing. Well, you're stood there doing nothing other than shouting your mouth off. So what is the difference? And you've got to look at this yourself, process what you need to do about worrying, but take charge of your mind. Take charge of your life. Take charge of what you are worrying about. Don't worry about something which you are ignorant of. Okay, if you haven't got results for something, then you are ignorant of those results. But by the same token, make sure you are knowledgeable about the plus and the minus. Well, the plus side is good because everybody knows what the plus sign is, but the minus sign is something different. So make sure you're in charge of what you need to do. Even if it's only the basics, make sure you're in charge of that, because then you'll be in a better position when you get the results, and you'll be a better person, and you will reduce the worry, the strain and the anxiety and the tension and all of those things which go with it to make you a sort of a lesser person, somebody who can't control themselves, and you make yourselves ill even just through thinking. So look at life from a different perspective. Look at life from an open mind. Look at life from a cool perspective. And don't be frightened to think, well, I'm not getting excited or worried. If I'm not worrying, there's something wrong with it. No, there's nothing wrong with you. It means you're taking control of your life. Make sure you can aim for those parameters, and you'll feel better for it.